Fly into Sydney and you see a magnificent panorama of one of the best natural harbors in the world, a deep estuary protected by a natural wall from the open ocean. We're looking eastward here toward the Pacific. Downtown Sydney lies to the right. Its architectural landmark, the Sydney Opera House, is clearly visible. The Sydney Harbour Bridge still is the only direct link between north and south in this city of nearly 4 million. The port is in the foreground. And here is the narrow entrance. Let's have a closer look. The entrance to Sydney Harbour, on the left, was cut by the river whose mouth later drowned under the estuary that now forms Sydney Harbour, the Parramatta. Outside, the ocean may boil, but inside, the waters are calm. The route from this natural portal to downtown Sydney is as scenic as any in the world. Some of the world's most expensive real estate flanks this harbour. Central Sydney presents a dramatic backdrop to all kinds of water traffic. From whatever angle, the Sydney Opera House symbolizes sea and shell and sail on the waterfront of an island continent. The Sydney Harbour Bridge, no less an icon than the Opera House, was built in the 1930s. It carries trains as well as cars. But 60 years later, it can hardly be expected to provide an adequate link between north and south in a city as large as Sydney. Despite plans for a supplementary tunnel, the bridge still stands alone across Sydney Harbour. Traffic jams on the approaches are notorious. Sydney represents the Europeanization of this continent and the wealth that has accumulated here. But today, this is a city of many ethnic neighborhoods, ranging from Italian to Chinese and from Greek to Vietnamese. Much of the formerly run-down area near the CBD has been gentrified. Compared to cities in Southeast Asia, Sydney seems to have no slums. But walk the streets and you'll find that Sydney, too, has its poor. It is an irony that with all the residents of this Australian melting pot, among whom those from Asia have done so well, the first inhabitants, the Aborigines, have lagged the most. Aboriginal neighborhoods are small, but they're among Sydney's poorest. Graffiti on the walls here reflect the problem. Note the exhortation, "Don't celebrate in '88, a leftover of the bicentennial the country celebrated in 1988. You will see some Aboriginal Australians trying to make a living from what remains of their culture in this urban setting. Sydney's government, like Australia's generally, has tried to assist its Aboriginal citizens, for example, by celebrating Aboriginal art and making it part of the city's cultural landscape. This wall painting may in fact be an understatement. The first Australians may have entered this continent 50 to 60,000 years ago, not 40,000. Here are some superb Aboriginal motifs drawn by indigenous artists. Let's watch. But behind these traditional designs lies a persistent Australian dilemma. The country is changing from a European to a Eurasian society. No city has seen more change than Sydney, the New York of Australia.